right, well, good evening, everybody. There's a few more people here than when I sat down. Glad you all made it in. I know that the roads may be a little bit difficult at times, and our number is about half what it usually is. We have people who are sick, and they stayed home, and we have people who are already doing things with family as it's New Year's Eve and so on. But glad that you're here tonight. We have get-together planned afterwards. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. We got food, fellowship, plan on singing some songs, and if there's a game on, we might be watching the game or even playing some games. So hope you can all stay for that too. One of the things we want to do tonight is take this opportunity to look backwards and look forward. Being New Year's Eve, we think that it's important to look back and remember what's taken place over the year. Don't want to be like that guy in James 1 who looks in the mirror and then forgets what he looks like. We want to look back and remember the things that we've done, the things that that's been successful, the things that we failed at, and learn from them and see what we can do better for the next year, and also share a little bit of a projection of our vision for 2026. So with that, we want to break it down in, of course, reaching in, reaching out, reaching up. We're going to look at it in that area, but also we've divided it in at least 3 different areas with as a bigger umbrella. Lamentation, the things that we have grieved over this year. Exertion, the things that we've worked for this year. And celebration, the things that we celebrate in this past year. So there's going to be some inherent overlap in all of these areas, but we'll break it down under these 3 general headings. So let's begin with Lamentations. We know that we've had a lot of people who have passed, and so we just want to take a minute and remember them and think about the expressions of sorrow that brought comfort during these times.
As this happens every year, there's a lot of losses that take shape in our lives, and especially in the lives of this congregation here. And so we've had some losses this year, losses of members as well as losses of family and friends that we've experienced as a congregation. Some of those include the likes of Betty Coulter. Some of you will remember Betty, Stephanie McClure's mom. She passed at the very beginning of this year. I don't remember the exact date, but I remember it was early January. Danny could probably tell you the date. He can, okay. Stephanie probably can. But I remember it was the very beginning of this year because she got sick toward the end of 2024. And so the year really started with the loss of Betty Coulter.
Yeah, and she was a long-time member here before she had moved down to Georgia for a few years. It was Georgia she lived in for a few years, wasn't it? Alabama for a few years. So we were glad to have her back for just a little while. And then after that, Jerry Allen passed. Of course, he's a long-time member here and served as a deacon for a number of years, and his loss will be felt for a long time.
And sometime in the early spring, we also lost Jackie Tinsley. Jackie was a member here, and he had been sick and hadn't been able to attend the last few months of his life because he was in a home over in Owasso, and he ended up passing, I believe, in May.
And then, yeah, I think so. And then Sue Salzman, you had to be here for a while to remember her because she's been a shut-in for a number of years. But she also passed this year.
We also lost Karen Plew in August, I believe. Karen was a member here for a couple of decades, and she had a really difficult few years after radiation damage from bladder cancer. That really made her last several years very burdensome, and she really suffered a lot. And so some of these losses, we mourn them, but we also celebrate them because they're not in pain anymore, such as Karen, and they've gone on to their reward.
Right. And she had so much Bible knowledge, and she became such a inspiration in her later years when she was suffered, but she just continued strong in the faith. All right, we talked about Karen, and now Janice. Janice, she just passed not that long ago, it seems, and she's another one of those who had a lot of knowledge and very faithful person, but she also is one that had a lot of struggles in the last few years, in and out of rehabs and hospitals and nursing homes, and so while we miss her, we do also celebrate that she's gone on to something better and happier and more peaceful.
To that effect, we also celebrate Pat Allen, who passed shortly after Janice did, and Pat really had a difficult year with the passing of Jerry toward the beginning of the year. She had to live for those months without Jerry, and that was very difficult for Pat, and she wasn't bashful to tell you that. And so she is one that we also miss, but we celebrate that also.
And then, of course, Chuck Cotterman, he just passed last month. And another one who's long time member, more than all my life. He's probably been here longer than I have. And so we just remember all of these folks and their families, and we remember the contributions that they made to this congregation, and we just want to take a minute and remember them. Also, there were former members that passed this year, Sandy Casco and her daughter-in-law Renee Casco. They weren't members here currently, but they were past members, and currently they were members at Otisville. And so they just died within a few days of each other. And so maybe there's a few others that I can't remember. But I know people had personal losses outside of this congregation as well.
Yeah, and so we lament not only for the losses that we feel as a congregation, but we lament also for the losses that those around us in this congregation have felt also. We have members that have lost parents. We have members that have lost grandparents, members that have lost siblings, and there have been some really life-changing things that have happened, spouses that have been lost, things to that effect. We've also had a lot of sickness and surgeries and different setbacks, different diagnoses, if that's the right term, the plural of diagnosis. A lot of different things pertaining to that, a lot of surgeries, a lot of hospital stays, a lot of different setbacks, health-related, and so those are things we lament as well.
And so when we're doing this lamenting, there's a lot of reaching that goes in during these times. There are people who are making dinners for individual families, and there are ladies and some men who pitch in and prepare a big dinner here, funeral dinner, and that's one of the best and most impactful things that I think that we do as far as a congregation, reaching out to people with a dinner and offering our building, wind chimes and things of that nature. People in an individual way are sending cards and making visits and making calls and texts, and I know that that's all taking place, and I think that that's when we look the best, when we're doing the best.
When a body is functioning as a body, it tends to work a lot better. And in these times, you can't help but be reminded of the blessing of having each other and the blessing of being part of a congregation where you can lean on each other and where you not only get the support after someone passes, but you also get help in times of need. And so really the blessing of each other is a big part of this as well. It makes me think of the old hymn, God's Family. Sometimes we laugh together and sometimes we cry. So there's been a lot of that this year. Are there any other aspects of this that anyone can think of? Any other comments or questions?
I don't know if it's an unusual comment, but when you mentioned Karen Clue, that was somebody we didn't know, but she had been on the prayer list for a while, and at moments it sounded like she was going to get better. And I know when she passed away, we talked. I said, "Wow, I thought I would get to meet her one day," and it was sad to never have met her. I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, Karen, what year did she get cancer, Jim? Do you know?
It was probably at least 4 years ago.
Oh, it's been longer than that. She had it before I came as an intern, or it was about that time maybe. So 2016, 17, 18, somewhere in there, she had cancer, and she dealt with the effects of the radiation damage to her bladder for all that time, and it was very painful.
And so Kim brings up something really, I think, interesting, and that is we have such a blessing based on the people who are even I'm sorry. I'm trying to talk loud, and I can't talk loud and talk clear at the same time. We have such a blessing that is kind of a residual blessing from people who are no longer here, but they've impacted us and helped form who we are. Whether it's something they did physically here to help build the building or some impact that they made on our hearts and changed us. And of course, Karen's one of those people, and so many of these who are on this list. Mm-hmm. All right, moving to the exertions, the physical efforts and events that were done purposefully to reach in, to reach out, and to reach up, and to add value to our being here. And so some of the things that we did to reach in, I guess you could say reach in, is in that this really only affected the congregation here. There's a lot of work that went on in the building and the grounds this past year. It seems like it's been that way for a number of years now. If you look at our budget, in fact, it's lopsided in that area. But hopefully having some of these things done, we won't have to do them again for a long time. Of course, Bruce is over building and grounds, and he's oversees a lot of these things, but we have other people who's done a lot too, like Daryl Brooks in the bathroom in the back, the rear bathroom and the washroom. Not completely done yet, but it's looking really good, and it's going to be a great asset to have for cleaning and for the bathroom back there. Ron Hensel does a lot around here as well, and we appreciate all those guys and the things that they're doing.
Yeah, so there's a lot that you can go down the list for, and there's other men that we'll talk about as well. One of the things that you may or may not have been aware of is Bruce, one of the things he does periodically is he maintains and he cleans the baptistry. He usually cleans it about once a year, I think. Usually about this time of year is when he usually cleans it. I helped him clean it one time. That's been a few years ago. He hasn't asked me to help him again, so. Yeah, which is fine. But he has done a lot of cleaning and maintenance for that. We also got new projectors in this auditorium this year. The projectors we had were in the process of going out, and so Bruce, he works for Epson, and so he bought us with his employee discount some not brand new, but still new to us projectors that seem to work really well, and Derek Colbert installed them, and so there's a lot that went into that as well. Also, you may have noticed out here on the entrance along Brockway, there's some pillars out there. Those were installed primarily for safety so that a car couldn't ram in through that door. But Ron was able to not only install those, but also make it look decorative. And so it actually is more functional perhaps than it was intended for. It gives a little more light out there as well, so it looks really nice. And then another thing we had done this year is we had the parking lot resealed. We do that, I think, every 3 years or so.
And then, of course, we had carpet put in back in the spring, and it really made things look nice in here. That old carpet was worn out and had seams in it. And also, there's been a lot of other things like work bees. Some of them are for the whole congregation. Some of them have been just for a few people who get together, cleaning out some of the rooms in the back and rearranging, getting ready for classes again. Some of the ladies sanitize this auditorium on a regular basis, and of course Cindy's doing a lot of cleaning throughout the week, so everybody's been working with that. We're really glad to have a clean place to come to. There are some windows over here that were chipped and had holes in them that were replaced. Then a lot of people volunteered for the lawn maintenance. Maybe not a lot of people, but a few did. I know in the spring there's some landscaping that goes on. I think usually Phyllis comes in and takes care of that. But Dan and Garfield and Mike Cheshire and Bruce Markella and Veronica, his wife, did lawn mowing and weed whacking, and that is a hard job. That's a lot of grass here because there's a yard there, and then I don't know if they do it every week, but almost every week, a yard over here. And that's a lot of grass, and they're hauling their own equipment up here and taking care of that, and just so that when we come here on Sunday morning and it's manicured well, we have these guys and Veronica to thank.
Yeah, very, very grateful for all that work. Other things we did that are inward aimed, we've had a lot of fellowship opportunities throughout the year. We have regular things, but we also have some annual things that we've sort of done. One thing that we have added to each of the last few years is what we now call our family weekend that we do in the winter months, typically February, I think. It started as a little Valentine's party a couple years ago. That grew into a Valentine's party on Friday and then a spiritual Saturday. And then that grew into the whole weekend where we had activities on Sunday as well. And so we did that. This year we had the dinner on Friday night. We had the spiritual Saturday, and as well as some things on Sunday. Potluck song service, I think we did that Sunday as well. We didn't do a full Reach Week in 2025. We'll share more later about why that is. But we still had our summer cookout during that week. A lot of work went into that, and that was a very enriching time with all that went on there. The ladies had a Thanksgiving get-together this year. I think this is the second year, at least in a row, that they've done that. And so that I've heard good reports on that. I obviously wasn't there, but I've heard good things about it. There also was a Thanksgiving Day meal here. Some of you will remember the Allens had a Thanksgiving Day meal here in years past. That was more, I think, for their family, but they also invited other people from the congregation to be part of that. And now that the Allens are gone, Sharon Craiglow has decided to take that up, and start that. And so she did that this year. I think they had, 6 people, Tom and Dolly? I know you guys were there. 6 people at Thanksgiving here? Something like that? Around 6, give or take. And so Sharon is really excited because it was on short notice this year, and so Sharon's really excited to build on that for the coming year. And then we also started doing some things with our young adult group. We started a young adult small group during the summer. That meets almost every week whenever we're able, and we've done not only some things each week, but we've had some big get-togethers as well. We had a fall party at Lance and Peyton's house. We had a Friendsgiving get-together at Jim and Tanya's house. We had a Christmas party at Bruce and Veronica's house. And we even got to crash the Watson family vacation up in Port Austin. So that was a lot of fun. And then another thing we did this year, people have been asking for this for a number of years. We got a new pictorial director. I don't know when the last time we had one was. It for sure predates my time here, but we started taking pictures for that later in the spring, and at the end of the summer we were able to roll that out, and really glad that we were able to do that.
And of course, another thing for reaching in is we started the Simple Suppers year before, 2024, I guess. And anyways, this year we just counted up, since January, we've had 37 Simple Suppers, and that's a great time for fellowship. And we usually have around 30 people there and get to know each other and circle the tables and talk a little bit and mingle. And that's always good. We had a Grieving Together get-together a couple weeks ago, and I can't remember how many people we had there, about...
I think 10.
Okay, just under a dozen people there, and that was meaningful. Nursery class started this past fall, I guess. And we have 7 women who are rotating, doing the teaching in the nursery class, and that takes place during our worship service for the little ones up to 3 years old. And that was a big help for some of these parents. And also we've had a couple special collections this year. One, we partnered with the Clio congregation to assist the couple with transportation back in the winter. Maybe you remember that. Eventually the older gentleman, he passed. But this was helpful to get him to a lot of his appointments. Then also, one of our members needed a well, and we helped out with that a little bit. And we collected some money and bought some packages for shut-ins for the Christmas gifts. And a number of people helped deliver those. And all these things gets people talking and gets them together and keeps us active and focused on encouraging one another.
And so there's been a lot that's been going on for reaching in, but we've done some things to reach out as well. One of the reasons that we didn't do a full Reach Week this year, for one, it's a lot of planning, and at least for me, it kind of snuck up on us. And so there were some things that if we had done a full Reach Week, we just weren't going to be able to do. But partly also because there's been a lot of things going on throughout the year. One of the things that are more service-oriented that we've done more outward reaching is the Adopt a Highway cleanup. We started that actually. We began the process of that, I think, in 23. We finally started it in 24, and we continued it in 25. And although we are stopping it after this year, it was still a great opportunity to go and to actually be in our community, to walk the streets of I-475, to walk along that highway and pick up trash, and to not only clean up the community, but also have our name on the sign out there on the road as well. I think that bodes well for us that we were able to do that. Another thing we did is in the spring we had that gospel meeting with Bruce McClarty. I think that was a really enriching time, not just inward, but also outward. We had a lot of visitors who came to that. And one of the days we had a leadership seminar on that Saturday for the men, and we had men from all over the state come to that. We had men from Saginaw, from Bad Axe, from Oscoda. We had men from all over come to that, as well as men from the congregation here, and I think that was a really great thing that we were able to do with Dr. McClarty.
I agree. And then, of course, there's things that we do to reach out just every Sunday and every week. We have welcoming faces every Sunday and every Wednesday. It is so good to walk in here and to know if I invite somebody, they're going to be welcomed warmly. And I have invited people, and they are welcomed warmly, and a lot of times they come back or they say nice things about you, and you make an impression on them. We have a number of people who are inviting friends and family, and every Sunday, Garfield or Amos asks them to fill out a card so that we can have a record of their being here, and I usually get that card, and take a picture of it and send it to Sharon and to Garfield and Amos and to Nick. And these people are receiving some kind of a card in the mail. Thank you for visiting us, kind of a card. If anybody else wants to be a part of that, just let me know and I can give you that information and you can help with that as well. But also we mentioned reaching in and during lamentation with funeral dinners, but that's a big outreach as well. Even though the member, it may be a meal in honor of the member who came, sometimes they're bringing 100 people into that gathering. And so that's a great time for us to reach out to others as well.
Another thing that we are really blessed to be able to do, we have men here who are able to go and preach other places. Everett, he's only able to be here one Sunday out of the month because he's preaching at West Branch and at Grand Blanc other weeks, and a lot of times he brings CJ with him. And so we're able to do that. I know Brad also is involved out at Flushing, typically once a month when he's around. I know they have left for the winter, but he's usually involved in that as well. And then me and Jim are able to fill in other places as needed as well, such as Waterford or Gaylord or wherever. And so we're really blessed to be able to have that here. And we have other men who've done that in the past as well. Another thing we're able to do in terms of reaching out is communications with things like church bulletins. Hopefully when you come in on a Sunday morning, you're either greeted with someone handing out a bulletin or you grab one from the table. There's a lot of information on there about our sick list and things we have coming up, and so that's a great way to get to know the church here a little better, especially if someone is visiting. We do things on Facebook as well, sending out emails, prayer requests, things of that nature, able to reach in and also reach out that way as well. And then another thing that we finally were able to implement this year was a new website. We had a website when I first came as an intern, but it was extremely outdated. It was coded with HTML, which if you know what that means, it was extremely outdated. And it ended up getting taken down around 2019 or 2020. And we went all that time without having a website for the church. And so we finally were able to get a new website up and running, which is a great thing to have for outreach people. If they're interested in learning about the church, they can go to the website and they can read details about the church, what we believe, why we do things, the way we do them, and who the leadership is here. They can read all of that on the website, and so that's a great outreach thing as well. And then we have a lot of fellowship opportunities here. We have things we do monthly like potlucks. We have things we do weekly like simple suppers. And these are opportunities not only to reach in, but that's a great opportunity to invite someone to come and be part of those as well. And there are some who have made use of that this year as well.
As far as foreign missions, I know we have folks who are doing some things on their own, sending money over there to Nigeria or other places. But as a congregation, I don't think we did any of that this year. Previously, we had built some baptistries, put up a water tower and wells and things, but I don't think any of that went on this year. And I'm ashamed to say that, to be honest. And I think that should be something that we really focus more on. My experience simply is that a congregation that only focuses at home eventually implodes. We need to be looking out not only for our own health, but also because there's people who benefit when we do that and the gospel is preached. And so that's one thing that I hope we learned from this past year, is that we need to do more and be more intentional with mission work, local and overseas. We had some opportunities this year locally to go and help the congregation up in Sheboygan, and I couldn't get anybody to go with me. So I think that's a mistake, and I hope that we've learned from that, and we will do better in that in 2026. So that kind of wraps up the outward, but we've also done a lot of things to reach upward, and some of these things may seem just mundane, but it's very, very important. Each and every Sunday, there are people who schedule and prepare for each Sunday, whether it's making the schedule and people who are working, who are leading classes, serving at the table, ushering, helping us prepare for the Lord's Supper, sermons, sound and tech. Dan and Derek and Angel work back there every Sunday. That's going on, and most of us don't even really think about it. If you can, when the microphone's working up front, we don't even think about how nice that is. But when it's not working, or when I start talking soft like I have a tendency to do, then all of a sudden we realize how important that is. And those guys in the back are working hard to make sure that everybody can hear, whether you're here or online. And we have these the shots they can do now. It almost, I mean, it looks pretty professional how they can go from the screen to the person and so on. They do a good job with all of that. And the people who are filling the communion cups. Many of us just take for granted that just happens. I know my mother does that a lot. Sharon helps clean them and doing things like that. People who's salting the parking lot. We have a deacon who's in charge of that, and oftentimes he's working or he's out of town, and somebody else will pick that up. And I just want to encourage people that if there's something that needs to be done, jump in and do it. And if you know the people that are doing these things, if we can walk here and here on a Sunday morning and everything's all set and we sit down, it's not because it just happened. There's a lot of people who did a lot of things to make sure that we can walk in and sit down and have a seamless experience in our worship, and we're grateful for that. There's people who's teaching classes and doing devotionals. We have various men every Wednesday rotating through leading songs. We have a song leader rotation on Sunday mornings also, and doing devotionals. And appreciate those men who step up and do that so often. This year, Nick finished his study through Matthew. That was a very long study, an in-depth study, very enriching. Steve is doing a class on Mark, and he always has a very enriching class. I would not be ashamed to invite anybody to come to our Bible classes. Our adult Bible classes are really good on Sunday mornings. And then Wednesday night, we've been doing In the House of God. It's actually been a year. It'll be a year, I think, the next Wednesday since we started that. And I appreciate everybody tolerating and me through all of that class.
Another thing we did this year to reach upward, we had, as part of our family weekend, we had that Spiritual Saturday here. The theme for that weekend was Bind Us Together, a theme really to try to reach in. And we had 3 really good lessons, one from Bruce Markell, one of our deacons here, one from CJ, and then one from Brad McFall, our retired minister here. They all did an excellent job with that. We had some lessons that Sunday morning as well that fit that theme. We also recently had a Thanksgiving service. We had 3 men come and give talks. Danny McClure was one, Lance Rinks was one, and CJ was another one. They gave really excellent talks. And another thing we were able to do with that is we had 3 men get up here who typically don't lead songs, who came and led songs. And so that was a good thing to try to give those men an opportunity as well. Other things that are going on, I haven't done it since April, but earlier in the year there were weekly Monday meditation videos on Facebook. I don't know if I'm going to get back to that or not, but that was going on earlier in the year. We also, each month, and we have one coming up this Sunday, we have our monthly song services. And so it's a great opportunity to come together and to sing songs, to sing praises to the Lord. If you have old classics that you'd like to request, you can request those, and we try to accommodate those requests. We also learn a new song typically each time. Not always, but we typically do. And by my count this year, we've learned at least 8 new songs in 2025, if not maybe even 1 or 2 more that I might have missed. And so those things are a great opportunity to reach up as well. And then our young adult small group, that's not just a fun thing for the young adults. We are almost always doing something spiritually minded, typically having some sort of Bible study. We started the summer with a series talking about being the light of the world, and then we recently started a series about the spiritual disciplines as well, and so lots of things going on.
Another thing is Everett has once a month Christ and Coffee. We sit down with the men and have an interesting Bible discussion and drink coffee together, and that's been very enriching. Thank you, Everett, for doing that consistently, and we want to grow that group because not only are we in the Word, we get in each other's lives somewhat, and that's beneficial. And then I know that there's just people who have personal Bible studies. Some of these result in baptisms. We'll talk about baptisms a little bit, but some of them just result in just drawing closer to each other and closer to God. People are visiting one another, going to their homes, sharing time together in that way, or going out to lunch with each other and talking about spiritual things and asking how things are going in their lives and getting involved with each other. And I think that these are ways of reaching in, but also reaching upward, because that's what we're supposed to be doing. We also now look at efforts that deal with celebrations, things that are praiseworthy. Talked about a lot of these already. Like I said, there's some overlap. I wish I could tell you that we had a lot of weddings in this congregation this year. We didn't. I don't remember any wedding from our own people this year. Births, we didn't have a lot of births. Now there were some grandparents who had new grandchildren that were born, not part of this congregation, but we usually announce it. I think Amos and Mary Ellen just had a new grandbaby born yesterday, and that was Mason and his wife just had a baby. And so we're really glad to celebrate those births. In the congregation, I only remember Hunter and Kelsey Tucker. They had a little baby earlier this year, Lucille. And there's the family that sits up here with all the kids on Sunday morning. Beautiful family.
We also, related to births, had some new births, some spiritual births this year. We had, by my count, 5 or so baptisms in the congregation. Earlier in the year, we had Tommy and Sharice Jordan who came and were baptized here. Tommy and Sharice. Tommy always comes. He usually sits along this side, along the side aisle there. He wears loud but good-looking clothing. And him and Sharice were baptized earlier in the year. Tommy, if you're not aware, is Jackie Tinsley's brother. And so Tommy and his wife Sharice became involved with the church here because of the things that we were doing for Jackie. And so that's, when we look after our sick, that's one of the things that we can do. It's an outreach not only, of course, to those that are sick, but to their families as well. And Tommy and Sharice are an example of that. We also had earlier in the spring Allison Curran, who was baptized. Allison is Jacob Farr's girlfriend. When they're here, they usually sit in this vicinity somewhere. Allison is also involved with the nursery as well. In fact, that was kind of her idea to start that. And so Allison, from the time she was immersed, when they're here, they're involved. Another one is Libby Schlicht. This is someone you may not know, but this is Tom and Vicki Cheek's granddaughter. As I understand it, Vicki had been doing some studying with Libby, and Libby was baptized sometime in October. She's attended some recently. We also have Emily Taylor. Emily is the granddaughter of Judy Taylor. Judy was a member here for a long, long time. And Emily, in fact, I think grew up coming here somewhat. Obviously predates me, but and she was baptized earlier this year as well. And there's other baptisms that go on as well that they may not end up being members here, but we have members who go and they baptize people, and then they go to their own respective congregations. And there are efforts like that we don't even know about. A couple that we do know about, we know that Dan Bryan has baptized a couple of his sisters this year, and I'm sure there are others as well.
So I would encourage everybody to call these folks, get to know them, go out to lunch with them, encourage them in some way, because starting out in this new way of life can be difficult. A lot of changes are taking place, and let's make their transition into Christianity as warm and as friendly as possible. There's also some things that can be easily taken for granted. People who get the mail, who answer the phones, who count and deposit the money and all of those things. I just think that they deserve some thanksgiving and some recognition. And it just seems mundane, but I celebrate them. In fact, a lot of times in my prayers, I'm thanking God for the people who just helps us to be functional, and oftentimes just goes with no kind of recognition. But we need to celebrate these kinds of things and these folks too.
Yeah, lots of things you wouldn't even think of. You look and you see the attendance board up there. Well, who counted that? Usually Seth does that. If Seth isn't here, I think Tom usually does that. There's a lot of effort that goes into that, things that we so often take for granted. We also take for granted the fact, I think, that we have a leadership here that works well together. We have elders here that are qualified and who work well together, Amos and Garfield, who are both sick right now, and that's why they're not here tonight. But we have great elders here. And we also have ministers who enjoy working with elders who enjoy working with ministers, deacons who are involved as well. And there's cooperation, great cooperation going on among not just the leadership here, but among the saints. We have men who teach Bible classes, men who lead other things, women who are involved in other things. There's a lot of things that are going on, and it just seems like a body is best when it's functioning like a body, when you have the different parts stepping in and doing these different things. And these are things that we take for granted as well. And bottom line, we have people who at least tolerate each other here, if not like each other. Jim touched on earlier the fact that this is a warm place to be. And part of that warmth, we're not only warm toward outsiders, but we're also warm toward each other for the most part. Another thing we take for granted is health. We look at the people that are less fortunate by way of health, and that should remind us that we really should not take for granted the health that we have. We have healthy people. We also have some elderly who are still going strong, people doing a lot of things in their 70s and 80s, people that have made recoveries, people that have been in and out of the hospital. There's been a lot of those things going on as well.
And one of the things that is worth celebrating big time is that we have now completed 74 years as a congregation. And so this coming year will be our 75th anniversary. So we need to be thinking about what we want that anniversary to look like, and we need to celebrate that this year. Maybe inviting some folks back who, who were former song leaders and preachers or deacons or folks who we just miss that have moved away, and maybe they can make their way back for a weekend. I'm not sure what that's going to look like, but we need to be thinking about that and celebrate. That's a long time as a congregation, and it's a legacy that the former members have left for us that we need to preserve. I just want to remind you why we do these things. It's a lot of things to do. If it really grinds me when people say we don't do anything or what's going on at Mount Morris. Well, show up and you'll see. Dig in and you'll have something to do. Just volunteer, right? But why? Why do we do these? Is it just because we want to be busy? By no means. We studied in Ephesians earlier this year, and there's a passage in Ephesians that talks about why we have, why there was given prophets and evangelists and pastors and teachers in Ephesians chapter 4. And then in verse 12, he continues and he says, it's for the equipping of the saints for the work of ministry. The saints for the work of ministry. Everybody who's saved is a saint. You're a saint or you ain't. You're a person who's consecrated to God, and there is a ministry for you, a piece of service that you can pitch in and do. So for the equipping of the saints, for the work of ministry, for the edifying of the body of Christ. Nick said that when the body works together, we're doing what the body should be doing. Till we all come to the unity of the faith and the knowledge of the Son of God, to a perfect man, to the measure and the stature of the fullness of Christ. That's our goal right there when we're doing these things. We want to come to the measure and the stature of Christ. We wear the name on the outside of our building, Church of Christ. So we better wear it well, right? And so this is where we're headed. We just want to be more and more Christ-like. We want to pursue Christ-likeness in all of these things. So that's a quick, maybe not so quick, but a review. But the preview is only one page. So we want to do more evangelism. We want to continue preaching and teaching, and we want to help everybody learn how to share the message if they don't know how. And we want to encourage those who can tell the message of Jesus. I mean, just tell the story from Genesis all the way to the cross and what's yet to come. Just tell the story to somebody. We want to encourage people to tell that story and all the saints to share it. We want to also restore our Sunday school classes for all ages. Around COVID time, we lost our Sunday school classes. It was declining before that. But if you look around on Sunday morning, sometimes now you'll hear that beautiful sound of children crying, little feet running around. And we like that. And we want to encourage that. And so we want to encourage young families, and we want to have Bible classes for their children in hopes that we can have classes for the parents too, adult classes, maybe just some foundational classes for new seekers, but we want to really encourage that. And so if there's people who want to teach some of those classes for the young people, please let me know, because we'd like to get that going early in 2026. And we've already got a foundation with the nursery class, and we just want to grow on that. So emphasis on young families and foundational faith building. And then, of course, I already mentioned we'd like to do some foreign missions. We have a lot of great contacts, and I know that there's a lot of needs that they have. Nigeria's been in the news a lot lately. Boko Haram and other Islamic terrorists are really having their way in Nigeria for several years. And now there's some pushback from America, and I'm glad that that's taking place, because we have people over there who are in harm's way. But that's just one place in a great big world where we can reach out.
Another thing to look ahead to this year is, for one, more people using the website that already exists. But another thing is we're going to begin to start adding additional things to the website. So if you go to the website today, there's part of it that is meant to be viewed publicly, but then there's a side part that is meant to be viewed by us as the members. And so if you haven't signed up for that and you're a member, please do that. And there's different things that you can look for on there. There's things already, such as being able to view the calendar of when the church building is available and to actually fill out a form and reserve the church building. You can do that electronically now. You no longer have to come all the way up here and find a physical calendar and do it that way. We don't have to do it that way anymore. We have a new way that we can do that. Also, another thing we're hoping to implement in the coming year is an online directory. We have a physical directory. We'd like to have that online as well so that people could have it on their computers or on their phones and so on. And then one other thing that I'm wanting to implement, among other things, but one other thing that I'll mention is we've learned these new songs over the last few years, and oftentimes we forget them. Well, I'm hoping to add a page on the website where you can go and you can listen to the songs that we've learned. And so hopefully that's something that people will take advantage of as well. That way when me or Lance or Danny or someone sings one of these new songs on a Sunday morning and 10 people know it, hopefully that'll become 20 and 30 and so on and so forth. So hopefully that'll be a way to learn the songs a little quicker.
All right, very good. Then we still want to do our quarterly events, spring events, summer, fall, winter, and so on. Family weekends, spiritual Saturdays, all of that stuff we want to continue. Those were very good, very big successes last year. Nick did a lot of the coordinating for that. Congregational Thanksgiving meal in the fall that started this year with Sharon. Reach Week in the summer, we'd like to instigate some more things. We kind of we drew back a little bit last year because there's so many things going on. We need to move forward. But in order to do that, we need suggestions. This isn't Mission Possible like we used to do. So anybody can plan things, some event. And so that's probably going to be about the first week of August 2nd through 8th. Be thinking of some things that you want to do, that reach in, reach out, or reach up. And any new things, we're open to that. And we're a body, and we can work together. I don't have to be in charge of it. Nick don't have to be in charge of it, but we're glad to work with you on things that you think are important.
Another thing to look forward to are another year of classes and sermons. Steve, I think, is just barely getting into Mark, and so really his Mark class is just getting underway. Actually, in Mark, he's done about 2 or 3 months worth of build up to it, and so that's something to look forward to as well. Other classes that may or may not come up, don't hold us to these, but these are things that we've been brainstorming. Things like a marriage enrichment class, a series in Joshua and Judges, things along those lines. Another thing that I'd like to do this year, we've done it a few times in the past, but I'd like to do it again. It's a good thing to do every couple years. Get the men of the congregation together and have a class about just doing things in public worship, things like leading singing or doing a Wednesday night devotional or leading a prayer, waiting on the Lord's table, things along those lines. These are skills that we need to develop in the congregation, and I think having a workshop for that would be very beneficial. And then we also are looking into possibly having some sort of workshop, like an apologetics workshop or something along those lines this year as well.
The security team will continue to develop and make new protocols. Tom's in charge of that, and he's doing a good job making sure that this place is safe. The pillars are one thing that that was placed out there, but we have people who are looking into what do we do when there's an emergency, not just like an active shooter, but a tornado comes through or somebody has a medical emergency and things of that nature. And so I think this year that'll even be developed even more. Tom, is there anything you want to say about that?
We've actually been invited over to Swords Creek. They're going to be running scenarios. And so this will be a great opportunity for the team to learn some things.
Oh, that's
Great.
good.
It's good to know, that they're continuing to further their education on this and make sure that this is a safe place to be. We want it to be safe and we want to feel safe We don't want to have to worry about that when we're worshiping. And there are places, especially, you think about Jerusalem in the first century, they were very much afraid. They gathered in fear. And so it's a blessing that we don't have to do that, and we're grateful for the team that's ensuring that we don't have to gather in fear. And then before I make a final comment and Nick closes, is there anything else that anybody wants to add?
So as we conclude, I had a longer thing I was going to say, but we're already over time, so I'll just be brief with what I'm going to say. We think about ways that we want to grow, and it's good to have a vision for growth. If you don't have a vision, then nothing is going to happen. And so you need to be forward-thinking in some way, shape, or form. And we think of growth, and we think of all these new things that we want to do, and we think that new is always good. Well, new isn't always good. Sometimes things that are new are actually to our detriment. And I think of the plea of the Restoration Movement in America with names like Alexander Campbell and Barton Stone and those men is to just go back to the ways of old, to the simple plea of just doing things the way the early church did it, that you can read of in the pages of your Bible. And I think a good place to do that as we look ahead is actually to look backward. And a good place for us to look, I think, is really at the beginning of the church in Acts chapter 2. And so if you have a Bible, go to Acts chapter 2, and this will be our conclusion here tonight. And so in Acts 2, we think of Acts 2 and we think of the scene at Pentecost. That's the start of the church, when the church is established there on that day. Peter preaches that gospel sermon, and there are these thousands of souls that are added to the church on that day. But then there's what comes next. There's what comes after that. And when you get to Acts 2 and verse 42, it says, "And they devoted themselves," this is the church there in Jerusalem, "and they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and the fellowship, to the breaking of bread and prayers. And awe came upon every soul, and many wonders and signs were being done through the apostles. And all who believed were together and had all things in common. And they were selling their possessions and belongings and distributing the proceeds to all as any had need. And day by day, attending the temple together and breaking bread in their homes, they received their food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having favor with all the people. And the Lord added to their number day by day those who were being saved." And so here we see the example of the early church. What things were they doing? Well, we see what they did here in these verses. And we see that as a result of what they were doing, day by day the Lord was adding to their number those who were being saved. And I think it stands to reason that if the Lord did it for them, certainly He will do that for us as well if we strive to do those things. I think we can put ourselves in a good position for God to give us the increase with that. And so you read this and you may think, well, what sort of things were they doing? And are these things that we can do today? Well, for starters, in verse 42, we see that they were devoted. They were devoted. Specifically, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teachings and to the fellowship and to the breaking of bread and to the prayers. These are things that Christians today also can devote ourselves to. We have the apostles' teachings in the Bible. We can devote ourselves to God's Word, the Bible today. We can also devote ourselves to the fellowship, being, of course, time that we spend together with the saints, such as this occasion and such as the occasion we have following this one. We assume that the breaking of bread is pertaining to the Lord's Supper, and then, of course, prayer. Prayer is a very important thing. And so we can start our path to growth by renewing our devotion to the Lord and to His church. And I think we have a lot of people who are committed, to their credit. But there is a difference between being committed and being devoted. These Christians were devoted. Commitment is a great thing, but devotion is far better. And this is what the Lord is seeking. And so we need to be people who are devoted, and specifically devoted to those four things. We also see in verse 44 that all who believed were together and they had all things in common. This shows not only that the group had fellowship with each other and they spent time together, but they were united. They were together. We looked earlier at the spiritual weekend in the winter, the theme of binding us together. That's what we need to strive for as a community of believers here. We see in Acts 2 that there were no factions, there were no divisions, there were no conflicts. There weren't cliques of people. They were together. It didn't matter their age. It didn't matter their gender. It didn't matter their their race, their socioeconomic status, or whatever else. They were together and they had these things in common. They were united and they were in a shared experience with each other. And this is a mindset that by and large is lost in our society today. We have a tendency as a society, not we, but our society has a tendency to divide people in different groups. You're this gender, you're that sexual orientation. We need to do away with that because we need to remember at the end of the day that whether Jew or Gentile, whether male or female, whether slave or free, we're all one in Christ Jesus. That's what truly matters. We also see in verse 45 that they sell their possessions and they gave to the needy. This shows that not only were they devoted and not only were they together, but they were generous. They were more than willing to part with the things that they had, and it was to the benefit of those who were in need. And finally, in verse 46, we see that day by day they attended the temple together and they broke bread in their homes. This shows us that the early church, they did not miss an opportunity to meet together. Whether that was at an appointed time, such as a gathering at a temple or at a synagogue, or whether that was times of fellowship in homes or whatever else. And this is a mindset that is largely lost today. There are many people who, when the church is together, they make the effort to be there. And you can see these sorts of people here in this audience tonight, driving through the wintry conditions and so on. But then there are those who, when the church is together, instead of treating it like the privilege that it is, they treat it more like an inconvenience. Because of that, they will in turn do what they feel is the bare minimum. That's how we could have 80 to 100 people on a Sunday morning at 11, but then just an hour before at 10 o'clock we might have 40 or 45. And on a Wednesday night we might have 35 or 20 like we have tonight. Or at a song service we may have 15 people. Or at a men's fellowship we may have half a dozen. We had 3 at the last one. This, I think, is to our shame. And so people will think that certain programs or certain ministries or different classes, these are the solutions to the problems that the church faces today. And I don't doubt that the church would benefit from some of these things. But I think what we really need to do before we go gung-ho on these things is to just get back with the way that the church did things that we can read in our Bibles in the New Testament. The best way in this case to look ahead is to look forward. And so to be forward-thinking is actually to be backward-thinking as well in terms of trying to do things the way the early church did. And I have faith that if we will do these things, the Lord will add to us. Like in the old movie, Field of Dreams, if you build it, I think they will come. I think God will be faithful to add to our number. All we can do is sow seed and water, but God ultimately gives the increase. And I have the faith that He will do that for us if we will make the effort. So that's all that we have tonight. I appreciate your patience with us going a little over. We did also start a few minutes late, and so thank you for being here. Are there any other comments or questions on anything before we dismiss?